You're crouching in the dark. No walls around you, no roof above you, just cold black night pressing in from every direction. Somewhere out there, something is moving. You can hear it breathing. Your hands are bleeding from the raw meat you have been tearing apart with your teeth. Your stomach still growls, and then from somewhere across the valley, you see it. A flicker, orange, alive, dancing against the darkness like nothing you have ever seen before. Every instinct in your body screams, run. But something else, something deeper makes you stay and watch. That moment, that impossible choice between fear and curiosity, was the beginning of everything. We take fire completely for granted today. You flip a stove knob, you strike a match, you tap a lighter. Done. But for the vast majority of human history, fire was not something you made. It was something you found, something rare and terrifying and sacred. Something that fell from the sky during storms or crept across the grasslands after lightning struck dry earth. And the first humans who encountered it did not reach for it. They ran from it, just like every other animal on the planet, except at some point one of them did not. Here's what makes this story so remarkable. The gap between first using fire and actually learning to make it is almost incomprehensible. Scientists believe our earliest ancestors may have been collecting and using natural fire as far back as 1.7 to 2 million years ago. Sites across Africa, including Chesawanja and Kubifora in Kenya, show possible evidence of Homo erectus controlling fire around 1.5 million years ago. That is not a mistake. 1.5 million years. These early humans were gathering embers from wildfires, carrying them back to their shelters, feeding them carefully, keeping them alive for weeks, sometimes months, transporting them from site to site like a precious breathing possession. Think about what that took. The patience, the attention, the understanding that if this flame dies, it may be a very long time before lightning strikes again. But here's the thing that will stop you cold. For over 1 million years, that is all they could do. Use it, preserve it, carry it. They could not create it. So when did that change? When did the first human look at a piece of rock, strike it against another piece of rock, and understand what those sparks could become? Until very recently, the oldest confirmed evidence of deliberate fire-making pointed to Neanderthal sites in northern France dating back around 50,000 years. That was the number scientists worked with, 50,000 years. Remarkable, yes. But then, in December 2025, a discovery published in the prestigious journal Nature changed everything. At a site called Barnham in Suffolk, England, researchers uncovered something that rewrote the entire timeline of human history. Evidence of deliberate fire-making dating back 400,000 years. Not 50,000. 400,000. That single discovery pushed our understanding back by 350,000 years overnight. So what exactly did they find? This is where the story gets forensic, and honestly, it gets fascinating. Buried within the ancient layers of the Barnham site were tiny fragments of iron pyrite, just 2 centimeters across. Easy to miss, easy to dismiss. But these fragments changed everything. Because when you strike iron pyrite against flint at the right angle with the right force, it produces sparks. Hot, bright, reliable sparks. The kind that catch tinder and grow into flames. Here is what makes this finding extraordinary. Iron pyrite does not naturally occur in that part of England. Someone carried it there, deliberately, which means whoever was living at Barnham 400,000 years ago was not just stumbling upon fire anymore. They were planning for it. They were thinking ahead. They packed their fire-making tools the same way you pack your phone charger before a trip, because they knew they would need it. Nick Ashton, an archaeologist at the British Museum who led the research, called it the most exciting discovery of his 40-year career. And when you understand the full weight of what was found, you understand exactly why. But the team did not stop at the pyrite. They got serious about proving this was human-made fire, and not just a natural wildfire that happened to burn through the area. They found heat-shattered hand axes concentrated in one specific zone. They found reddened clay, the signature color of soil that has been repeatedly exposed to intense heat. Geochemical testing confirmed temperatures had exceeded 700 degrees Celsius inside that zone. That is 1,292 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to shatter stone tools. Hot enough to permanently change the chemistry of the earth itself. But the most telling detail was this. The burning had happened in the same spot, over and over again. Natural wildfires do not do that. Lightning does not strike the same patch of ground repeatedly and politely burn only that one small area each time. but a family of early humans returning to the same campsite, building fires in the same hearth, night after night, season after season. Absolutely. Now, who exactly were these fire makers? No hominin bones have been found at Barnham itself. But less than 100 miles south, archaeologists discovered skull fragments from roughly the same time period, fragments that may have belonged to early Neanderthals. The humans alive during this period had brains approaching modern size. They were not primitive. They were not stumbling through existence by accident. They were thinking, planning, problem-solving beings who understood something profound about the world around them. Dennis Sandgaith, an archaeologist at Simon Fraser University, noted that across dozens of excavated sites spanning Eurasia and Africa, nobody had ever found pyrite before Barnham. Not once. This was not a coincidence. This was technology. Now step back and think about what fire actually meant to these people. Because it was not just warmth. It was not just light. It was something far more transformative. Cooking changed the human body from the inside out. Raw meat is tough, difficult to digest, and calorically inefficient. Cooked food breaks down proteins, kills parasites, and releases dramatically more energy from the same amount of food. This meant the human body no longer needed to dedicate enormous biological resources to digestion. And those freed up resources went somewhere else. They went to the brain. Larger, more complex, more capable. Fire did not just keep our ancestors warm, it literally grew their minds. Then there was what fire did to time itself. Before fire, when the sun went down, human activity stopped. Darkness meant danger. Darkness meant sleep or death. But fire pushed the darkness back. It carved out hours that had never existed before in human social life. Hours for conversation, hours for teaching, hours for storytelling. Experienced hunters showed younger ones how to shape better tools. Elders passed down knowledge about seasons and migrations and which plants would heal and which would kill. Children listened and learned and remembered. The campfire was humanity's first classroom, its first community center, its first library. Here is something that challenges the tidy story we would like to tell about human progress. The mastery of fire was not a single eureka moment that spread instantly across the ancient world. It was messier than that, more human than that. Different groups almost certainly discovered fire making independently in different places at different times using different methods. Some groups learned it and kept that knowledge alive for generations. Others learned it and lost it when their community was wiped out by disease or drought or predators. Then another group somewhere else, thousands of years later, figured it out again from scratch. There was no straight line from darkness to light. There were countless false starts, countless lost sparks, which makes what the people of Barnham achieved even more extraordinary. They did not just discover fire making. They held on to it, they passed it down. And somewhere in that unbroken chain of knowledge, it eventually reached us. Not every scientist is fully convinced by the Barnham findings, and that is worth acknowledging. Researchers like Will Robrooks from Leiden University have praised the quality of the analysis while suggesting the team may be pushing their interpretation slightly beyond what the evidence strictly confirms. Science moves forward through exactly this kind of honest debate, but even the skeptics agree the evidence is exceptionally strong. The combination of transported pyrite, heat-shattered tools, repeatedly burned soil, and sustained high temperatures makes a compelling case that something intentional and deliberate happened at Barnham 400,000 years ago. So here's where we have arrived. Somewhere between 1.5 million years of using fire and 400,000 years of making it, something shifted inside the human mind. A cognitive leap occurred. A connection was made between striking two specific rocks together and producing something that could sustain life. And once that connection was made, once it was taught to a child who taught it to their child, the world was never the same again. From that first deliberate spark came cooked food. From cooked food came larger brains. From larger brains came language and art and cooperation and civilization. From civilization came agriculture, metallurgy, electricity, medicine, the internet, and the screen you are watching this on right now. Every single link in that chain traces back to someone crouching in the dark in ancient England, striking a piece of pyrite against flint, watching sparks fall into dry grass, and leaning forward to blow. The next time you light a candle or turn on a lamp, take 1 second, or just one, and think about that person. They had no way of knowing what they were starting, but they started it anyway. And here you are,